Just gotta go light onion.
He's not too much.
It's sloppy. You have to eat it for the full night.
No, you wear a white shirt so you can bleach it when you get home.
Hey, are you wearing white today? Are you wearing white today? Good, because that makes ribs want to make a mess.
Don't judge.
So it's a challenge.
You're going to McDonald's anyway. Nothing. True. The salad is fried. I don't know how they pulled it off, but it is. Do you like barbecue sauce? That's the flavor. That really is the flavor. It is half nostalgia. I'll be honest. Because it was the one time growing up. Right. It was the one time growing up. It was not mom.
Did you get my test? Brings you back to
My dad would say that.
what? I probably will.
Is there yellow about that?
Yes. Yes.
I will also say that Tim Berry got it.
Hi, buddy. How are you?
Good to see everybody. Couple of, I usually try to 100% move on, and I have, 24-hour rule, but I just want to go back to the game last week, man, and just say how proud I am of my guys. A lot of things went on in that game that was very frustrating, and just the way they responded and how they fought throughout the game against a really good football team was, I was really proud of them and really proud of the way they came back yesterday, and I expect to have a great practice tomorrow to get ready for Kansas. Got some guys that we're going to get back and some guys that will be out. Baron Morton, we don't expect to play with an ankle, same ankle that he hurt against Oklahoma State. Then Ty Buchanan got rolled up right at the end of the TCU game with an ankle. We don't expect to have him. Guys that we're going to get back, we'll get Monroe Mills back. Looked really good yesterday in practice. We'll get Landon Peterson back. Looked great in practice, and we'll get Trey Cleveland back. And so good to get those guys back. Hate to be missing, two guys. And Ty got his first collegiate start, and some things that he gave up, but definitely played. We see the upside and why we like him so much, and how hard he's been working. We're playing a good football team. They just got bowl eligible last week. I think Coach Leopold, a lot of him. He and I, after we played last year against them early I think it opened up Big 12 play, he reached out because he was good friends with Coach Rule, and we had talked before the game. And so he and I, over the last couple years, have texted a lot. I sent him a text after they became bowl eligible and congratulated him. The job that he's done there is absolutely incredible. The culture that he's creating after 2 years and having that team bowl eligible is pretty impressive, and just a great guy. Offensively, they've played two quarterbacks. We're not really sure who we're going to get between the two, but both of them, create plays with their feet. They do a great job, whenever they don't run them probably as much as maybe like true triple option, but they do run them enough to where they're a threat. Bean had a huge touchdown against Oklahoma State last week. He's got great speed. I know him from high school. He's from Mansfield Lake Ridge, and ran in track. I mean, he's got legit track speed. It's really good. They're running back. Total yardage, had 338 yards against Oklahoma State's really good football player. And in the open field can make you miss. But that's kind of like this conference, man. We're playing great running backs every week. We just got through playing one. And then defensively, they do a good job. They've got a great scheme. They're aggressive up front. At different times, it's kind of a bend but don't break. And then they've been opportunistic, in taking the ball away. And so it's going to be a good game. I'm glad we're playing them at home in front of our fans. It's going to be good to be back home, and our guys are excited. But again, really proud of our guys, the way they responded yesterday after the TCU game. Being frustrated, it was a crazy 2 days from Friday, sitting on a plane for 8 hours trying to get out of here up into that game of being 17-13 with 1:05 left in the third quarter, having the lead and then giving it up. And, I'm really proud of the way they responded. So with saying all that, I will open up for any questions.
Hey, Coach, the obvious question, with Morton expected to be out, how do you expect the quarterback reps to be split up this week, and who do you expect to go Saturday?
Both of them got split reps yesterday. Man, I wish I could tell you. I wish I could tell you that I feel 100% that I'm going with Tyler or 100% I'm going with Donovan. It's a deal that we really, we know how important this game is, and like every other game, we're going to focus on being 1-0 this week, but we understand what this game means. And so we're going to go through the week, split the reps. Both guys know that. We talked to them yesterday. Zach and I talked to him yesterday, and it's like, we expect both of them to play for different reasons, but really we want to have a starter. We really want to have that starter by Thursday and, let them compete Tuesday and Wednesday, and whoever gives us the best chance to win, that's who we got to go with, and really roll with through that game and go win a game at home.
In terms of analytics and going for it on fourth down, is it where if it just hits the magic number based on the situation, it's an automatic go, or do you ever audible and say, okay, I'm just not feeling it this way?
Yeah, we've done that a couple times. Usually, when we've done that, we've kind of audibled a couple times during the game. Once we kind of get into it and we're saying these are the numbers, frustrating. I mean, I'll give you I know what everybody's going to talk about. It's 20-17. It's 4th and 2 or 3rd and 2. I go back and I think, I went into we've been a little bit different to where we've been really focused on getting first downs and continuing drives. I mean, at one point, and we're probably still in the top 2 or 3 of first downs in the country, and just kind of what we are as a team. And I talked to Zach earlier in the week, and I said, hey, look, man, if we're at the number, especially whenever it's a number we feel good about, I want you to be really aggressive on 3rd down. And we were, right there leading up to that point in the weeks, we had probably gotten the first down on 3rd down whenever it was something like that instead of being so aggressive. And that was my call. And then we come out and, we've talked about it a lot as a staff of, do you punt right there? And I will tell you on the headset, I second-guessed myself, and I went with, hey, let's punt the ball, and then I said, no, go. And, we felt like we had a good play, and, I definitely know what Donovan was doing. He had just gotten the first down with his legs earlier by being really physical. There was an option on that play. If you watch the play, we have Taj in the flats and wished it was spit out to him, and we had seen if Taj was fast enough to score right there, and that's on me, It's definitely a thing that we've talked about of, parts of the game, like right there, do you punt it? The tough thing is, okay, we punt it. We've covered, we were elite at covering kicks and punts, except for one. And that was a touchdown. So then you punt. Let's say we give up the touchdown and everybody's pissed that I punted. So it's it's great whenever you get the first down. Hey, at Texas, everybody's, telling us that, hey, wow, man, y'all have got some intestinal fortitude. And then we don't get it, and it's a bad call. And so it's the nature. I get that. That we have talked a lot about it, I will tell you that. Kenny Perry and I actually had another conversation this morning just about the feel of the game. Because that's the thing that analytics, and we've talked a lot about this, is analytics, they don't take into account, is it raining? I mean, there is a bad weather book, but is it raining? Is the wind blowing? How close is the game? Where the ball is, how we're playing. They don't take into account. You just have the books, and it's all based on numbers. And, going back on that, probably should have stuck with my gut right there whenever I said punt and changed my mind.
Coach, I know you don't like looking back a whole lot, but after you had a chance to review the tape What were your thoughts on the officiating, and if you got any comments on that?
We are in the process, every single week. One thing I will tell you, I think this staff is, myself and Harrison Hanna have gone above and beyond trying to understand the officiating in this league. I went to the Big 12 officials meeting. There were only 2 head coaches there at that meeting. Everybody's invited. On our bye week, Harrison Hanna went and sat in the Rock. That is the review center to get a better idea of how things operate. And so we're really, I think, going above and beyond of trying to make sure that we understand how this game's going to be officiated in the Big 12. Every single week we turn in plays. Some plays we're turning in that we disagree with. Some plays we're turning in really to get the verbiage of the ruling and to understand the officiating better. We have turned all that stuff in. We're waiting to get that back, and then from that we will kind of decide where we move on. That was there were parts in that game that was extremely tough to deal with.
And you've been in the conference for a while. What kind of changes have you seen specifically with Kansas since you've been here and at Baylor as well that has shown their improvement coming into this week?
Coming from where I was at, I think the level of recruiting, again, in the same conversation, Coach Perry this morning, he was like, I went back and watched Baylor and just the size of their offensive defensive line is very impressive. And he says, he was saying this is how good they are. And I think one thing that has changed in college football that the previous coaches at Kansas could not do, they could never get to 85 scholarships because you only had initials of 25 and you could really never get a full roster. It took so long to get a full roster. Now with the change of the transfer portal and the change of the initials, you can get to 85 scholarships, and that's made a big difference. A little bit like our defense, we have some transfers. If you look at Kansas, they have done a great job of getting some transfers that affect their program. And then I believe, Lance is a culture builder. I mean, he did it whenever he was in, won all the national championships in the D3 level. He definitely did it at Buffalo, and, it was a great fit for them getting him at Kansas. I mean, he's done it there, and he's a really, really good football coach.
Hey, Coach. So you talked about after the last game, too, just wanting to make sure that momentum stays on your guys' side, especially in those fourth quarter situations. Going into practice this week, how do you, kind of hone in on something like that? Is it simulated drills? Is it putting guys in situations like that where things are tight at the end of a game? How can you replicate situations like that at practice, I guess?
You do. I think you do. I mean, it's all, situational football. So you continue with that. I'm one of these guys, I really try to stick to, the messages that we believe in, and really not, because you can have a different message every single week, and then you've got a bunch of players going, okay, well, what's the message? Are we going to do this, or are we going to do that? But it is one thing, in the fourth quarter, Don brought it up last week, and it was a great point after the game of how we've played in the fourth quarter and against Oklahoma State and K-State, TCU, and Baylor. And so it's something that we talked about it yesterday. It's something that we talk about in our position meetings, in the team meeting, and unit meetings, and throughout practice. Especially what you do whenever you start talking about the fourth quarter is you try to find something at the end of practice to really address, when they are tired at the end of practice and they're in those situations of, sudden change, and it's something that we'll do this week to try to prep and get ready for the fourth quarter, because this game's going to come down to that too. I mean, they're a good football team. They've played well on the road, went into a tough place in West Virginia. West Virginia is a tough place to play on the road and beat West Virginia. And so, it'll be a fourth quarter game.
On it before too, but how do you quantify just how big of a turnaround Lance Leipold's been able to do with Kansas?
Well, it's going to be interesting. I don't want to go as far yet, but I think you could compare what Bill Snyder, now that Bill Snyder, what he did, it's hard to compare because he did it for such a long period of time, which I believe Lance can definitely do. But if you look at, see, I had so many I've had a bunch of players. Like, I had 3 players on that 2008 Orange Bowl team. And I know Coach Mangino really well. And so I saw what he did, and then I saw 4 coaches after that, not be able to do what Lance has done. And so, if 5 years from now, we might say this is either the first or second biggest turnaround in college football. I definitely probably say the second. I don't know how you can say K-State's not the first. There might be another school. Don, you've done this for a long time. You and I probably have the grayest hair. I don't know. Like, really, I don't know besides K-State if there's a bigger turnaround. But this is pretty huge because we've all seen, everybody in here has seen what Kansas has been and what now he has done, and he's done it in 2 years.
Coach, you've talked about the turnaround in culture that the team has made. Where do you think your expectations was at the beginning of the year of a Big 12 championship? How has this team rebuilt? And you're here, your staff's here because the previous staff wasn't able to make it work. What are you doing, and what have you seen that shows that the future is bright for Red Raider fans?
It's funny. I had a great conversation this morning with Reggie Pearson. About a 30-minute. He wanted to talk to me about a couple different things, and I told him, I said, the tough thing is when you have a goal, I don't have a plan B until I have to have a plan B. Like, my goal was to win the Big 12, and whenever that doesn't happen, then you start readjusting and having the next plan. And we were talking about this game and what we have to do to win this game. And so the things that I think for me that are going in the right direction is, and I talked to my young guys yesterday. We had a live scrimmage with everybody that didn't play in the game on Saturday. They scrimmaged yesterday. And just how hard these guys are playing. This mentality of, not giving up. I think there's definitely a difference when you turn on the film to see the effort that they're playing with. And then I think the next part is being able to retain the guys that we have, and we're working on that still have another year of eligibility, and then the recruiting that's happening. We met this morning in our staff meeting. We were talking about, this is the time of year that a lot of different schools come in on different guys that whether they missed on somebody or they're just now evaluating a senior tape that they come in and try to flip. And I said, we got to stay in contact because we have a really, really good recruiting class that we want to keep, and it definitely starts up front, O-line and D-line. And so we want to continue to build that. And I think that there's a really bright future. And I think you've seen, Barron and I were talking, and, if you just look at, like, guys that played in that game that played well, Barron Morton's a redshirt freshman. Gerard Bradley is a redshirt freshman. Ty Buchanan's a redshirt freshman. Jacoby Jackson is a redshirt freshman, that all played in the game and played really well. Mason Tharp is a true sophomore. Cameron Valdez, who I've been waiting all year to get on the field and be fully healthy, he's a redshirt freshman. And so there's some vets that are holding this team together and really giving us great leadership, but there's some young guys that are performing well at a high level.
And the losses that have been on the road, is it just a ball flipping one way to the other? Is it just what's it going to take for that first road win, and how important is getting that first one to break the ice?
It's big. We talked about it. We don't talk about it like too much because we really try to keep the same routine. We were not in the same routine this week. I was really proud of our guys, the way they handled that situation. But we try to stay in the same routine, but it's big. I mean, that's part of building a championship program is like you gotta be able to win everywhere. You got to be able to go into a place and win. But man, I'm telling you, the one thing. I mean, I'm sure this is like this in every conference, but This is the only conference that I've been in the last 6 years, man. It's really tough to win on the road. Every environment, especially the ones that we've been in this year, have been hostile and been great crowds. And so we just got to learn and continue to grow up, to win on the road. We got one more. We got 2 at home and 1 more on the road. And so we got to find a way to, finish out strong. The guys definitely deserve that.
We asked Tyler after the game, just in terms of his feel for the game, as you kind of alluded to earlier, but how many game reps do you kind of feel like he's going to need to kind of get back in that feel with all the time he's missed through the injury, whether that was this year or last year? Do you kind of feel like he's there? Because he said mentally he feels fine. It's just getting the physical ready for him.
Mentally I do. I mean, I think mentally whenever we're sitting there talking about going with him right there, it's like, taking care of the football, getting us in the right plays. But you could definitely see the rust. I mean, the very first throw that he makes to X, I mean, you definitely can see the rust. And it's just continuing, to push him in practice. I mean, both, when we talk to Donovan and him, man, we just got to let it rip. Like you can't be cautious. You can't be worried about you got to be smart with the football, but you got to let it rip and have confidence in it. And so I think this is a big week to see where he's at. And definitely see where Donovan's at. Donovan's really healthy right now, so I feel good about him with that. And I think that's a part, because mentally, there's no doubt he's there and totally gets it.
Cameron Valdez, I guess, when did y'all feel like he was going to be part of that game plan, or was it always toward the end to kind of give him a little bit of reps? And how'd you feel about his explosiveness and just the ability to make big plays?
Man, he, that's – I mean, that's just the nature of football, of injuries and stuff like that. But, I mean, that's who we thought he would be, and I think Taj and SaRodorick, they have a better feel right now. It's a little bit like Tyler. They have a little bit better feel of pass blocking and everything. And when we got behind, we kind of stuck with those guys as far as blitz pickup and stuff like that. I think he'll play earlier this week. But we'll have all three of them play. But you saw that. I mean, he's a one-cut guy, and he can get small in small areas and then friggin' burst out the other side. And there was a couple like that. I mean, that's the one thing that he does the best. It really kind of separates him. He's different. He's a different kind of back than the other two. He is a one-cut vertical guy. So you see him put his foot in the ground and get going. I mean, he could be going to his left and all of a sudden be going straight down the pipe with 1 foot in the ground and getting vertical. So I was really proud of him. It was good for him, man, because, he gets back to where he's going to come back. He was having a great camp, and then he gets hurt, and then he's going to come back and, pulls his hamstring. And so it's good to have him back. Even speed-wise, I don't know if he's totally there because I still think he's got another gear. He's just getting his legs back under him.
Coach didn't mention Deron Bradley. What was his status after the game? Did he leave with a concussion? Was that what that was?
Yeah, right now we're trying to get a feel that he's one that I wouldn't say back or out. I mean, he's working through the process. That was a really tough hit that he took. And when that happens, you got to be real careful. Drew does a great job, but just overall, the Big 12 does a great job of making sure these guys are right before they go back in the game. He went through a workout yesterday. He didn't practice, but he went through lifts and everything like that, and he ran. And so we're just taking it day by day with him. We have enough days to get him back if he is so I would say he's in concussion protocol. We have enough days to get him back. It's just – is he symptom-free to play on Saturday?
The Red Raiders haven't won 5 or more games at home since 2009. What do they have to do? What do you as a staff have to do to accomplish that this season?
We got to get this one on Saturday for sure to get the more. We got to. There's no magic dust that you sprinkle on a team to whether winning or losing. You just got to come to work, and we're going to have another great practice tomorrow. Our guys, it's funny. I'm trying to make sure they're okay, and Josiah Pierre, as soon as he's sitting in front of me in the plane, probably like 5 rows, And he comes back to me as he gets on the plane before he sits down, and he goes, "It's going to be okay, Coach. We're going to be okay." And I'm trying to get them to make sure, and there you've got guys coming up to me, so I guess I was wearing it on my face and everything that I was disappointed. But, I mean, that's who this team is. I mean, we're going to come out. We're going to play well. We're going to fight our tails off. And, you know, I just keep challenging everybody in this building. I mean, everybody in this building to look in the mirror and keep trying to be the best versions of themselves. Just like totally search, how can I help us win on Saturday?
Joey, following up on y'all's adventure on Friday, some people have asked why y'all couldn't have left earlier given the forecast. Of course, you can't change 100 hotel rooms for a night earlier.
Well, we actually did tried to leave earlier. Earlier in the day of what we had planned to move it up to get out. Man, it was crazy. There's a lot of questions had a great question about the officiating, had a great question about the fourth down calls, and there's a lot of people that are going to have to ask questions of how we couldn't fly out whenever there were other planes flying out. You know, I mean, there's a lot of things just off of this weekend that different people are going to have to ask and answer questions on what all went on. So we definitely I know that Southwest flew out whenever they said we couldn't. So I don't know. We'll find out.
What time were you trying to leave?
We were on the plane and ready to go at 12. We ended up flying into Meacham, which our pilot at 12 o'clock said, "Hey, we can fly into Meacham." And we flew into Meacham at 8 o'clock. So maybe later than that. We do a movie on Friday, no movie. We went straight to dinner and get these guys in bed, and get up. That's where I always like an early game. And after that, I was like, God, man, I wish we had a 2:30 kick or a 6 o'clock kick after that adventure.
How did you put your time to use sitting on the plane? Did you go over any game plan stuff? Or
Well,
read a book or play cards?
No, I watched a couple of movies. It was funny. A couple of the guys, like Rabbit, woke up at one point. He had taken a 2-hour nap, and he was like, "Why are we still on the plane?" And then he goes, "Why are we still in Lubbock?" We at one point we were lucky enough to get off the plane and stretch and everything like that. And Lance, took him through a mobility stretch, and then we get back on. And Adrian Fry was laughing at me yesterday because I sent out a text to all the guys that were on the plane because they said, "Hey, here we go. We're fixed to load up, and we're going to leave in 20 minutes." And I put on there, "What's next?" All of them. Like 4 hours later, we finally left, and he was laughing at me. He goes, "You didn't say what's next 4 hours later." And I was like, "Yeah." I was pretty pissed at that point, Adrian. So,
Could you have, left at, 9 a.m., or then you would, of course, you had guys in have class on?
Well, that was, now you said it perfectly. Now we were waiting on hotel and stuff like that. But we really felt, and what we were being told, either weather-wise and or, the airline, that if we could get there by this time, then we would be able to take off, and we just never did.
Back on the officiating stuff, of course, I know y'all and every other team sends in plays every week. How many questions or plays did you have this week? What number, and how many does that compare to a usual week?
It was more. We were probably close to 12 more, but some of them were, just making sure the definition of the rule that I'm reading it right, that we're talking about it. Because, the one thing, there's always going to be frustration. I mean, I don't know if I've ever been in a game where I wasn't frustrated at some point, even wins, losses, blowouts, getting beat. But, what you want with your team-wise is to be able to, calm them down if there is, and hey, look, this is what the rule is. Relax. Let's just go play. Just stay focused on what we can control. And so some of them were like that, but then there were also, questions of what this was.
And what form does that take? In other words, when you say, if you have a question about, say, the face mask call on Tyree, you send a video clip?
No,
And-
they have the same video we have. They have actually more than we do because they have the TV copies and they have angles that the producers that we don't see and the general public doesn't see. So what we do, that happened at 1:05 left in the third quarter. So we submit off our game time, third quarter 1:05, and just as simple as, was this a face mask? We can also add any comments in there of, you know, whether we agree, don't disagree, and then we get it back, you know, and kind of waiting to get everything back, and then sitting down with my boss and kind of going from there.
Turnaround time on that is usually what?
We usually, it depends. We did not submit. We went through, I watched it 3 times. I mean, I graded it twice, but then watched another 3 times of total film of seeing every play, of questioning this and that. So we put it in pretty late last night before we left, and we'll get it sometime today or first thing in the morning. That's one thing, they do a good job of getting it back pretty quickly.
All right, thanks, Coach.
All right, thank y'all.
Thanks for being here.
Coach, without getting you in trouble with regards to officiating, when a call goes against your team that is extremely questionable, whether it be from their point of view or from your point of view, how do you get your team to readjust to get focused back on the field and be ready to go on the next play?
What's next? It's one of our mantras here with Coach McGuire. It's never about what happens to you, it's about what's next. And I think our guys have done a really nice job of embracing it. It doesn't matter if we got to take the field after, you know, a turnover, if we get a bad call against us, if we give up a big play, it's what's next. Put the ball down, let's get lined up and play the next play. And, you know, I was proud of our effort on Saturday. We gave up a couple explosive plays, and we made them kick field goals and not, you know, worry about the last play, but it was, hey, let's get them to kick the ball, and we did that and held them off out of the end zone until the fourth quarter. And so if we'll keep doing that, it doesn't matter what call happens. You know, officials' calls, they tend to go both ways. You can disagree with calls. I mean, it happens. But if you dwell on it and you're worried about that one and not the next play, that's where you have issues. And so that's why our whole mantra is it's about what's next.
And it seemed like your defense was, I don't want to say in control, but was holding their own up until late third quarter into the fourth quarter when it kind of got out of hand. Was that just a situation where your guys had given all they had and had nothing left to give, or did TCU do something different at that point?
No, they're a good offense, and we knew that. They caught us in a couple plays that you know, our calls, we didn't fit the right way. You know, we gave up that drive where we had 3 penalties, and those are tough things to overcome, but we got to do that. We were right back on the field with the short field, and we end up not not playing as well as we should have at that point. Give them credit. They made some plays. They've got a good back who made some guys miss. We didn't leverage the ball the way we should have on a couple plays, and they were able to score. And in those opportunities, we've got to find a way to get off the field. We had done it earlier. We just got to finish better than we did.
Jarrett and Mason and Carlos.
Hey, Coach. Seems like Josiah had a really good game. And what did you see from him? What allowed him to do that? And then in getting production from that position, how does that help your defense?
Well, it was huge because, I think people are realizing that Tyree's a heck of a football player. I think he's one of the best in our conference, one of the best in the country. If you don't have a plan to slide the protection to him or chip him or do something, he can take over a game. Now, if you don't have anybody on the other side, they can do that all the time. And I think we started getting attention going Tyree's way, and you have to have the other side step up. And really been pleased with Josiah the last couple of weeks. I know he's worked extremely hard. Early in the season, he struggled a little bit, but Coach Ayu's done a fantastic job with him in working on his pass rush, understanding his get off, how to get to the edge, how to turn his pads, and then it's just the good hard work that he's put in. So that's going to be critical for us because both he and Tyree made a lot of plays off the edge, and for this defense to be effective the way it's supposed to be, we got to have great edge play.
That's something you talked about even going into the season. How many guys are getting snaps right now on the defense?
I'd have to look at the exact number, but I think we played 4 edge guys last week. Inside, we played 5 D linemen. Linebackers, we played 4 inside linebackers. In the secondary, I think we played 8 or 9 guys. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to roll guys and try to keep guys as fresh as we can. When there are critical situations, you want to go with your best, but your best aren't going to be your best if they got to go 70, 80, 90, 100 snaps. You've got to develop quality depth, and we've got to continue to do a better job of getting guys in earlier in the game so that when it gets to the fourth quarter, we're fresher. I thought at some positions we were worn down a little bit in that fourth quarter, having to go back out there. So I was pleased with that last drive, before the kneel down. Our guys bowed their neck. They were not going to let them score again. And I think it just talks about the character of the guys on this team and how much, playing for each other means to them.
Hey, Coach, just wondering some early overall assessments of the Kansas offense, especially coming off that game where they just hung 37 on a solid Oklahoma State defense.
Yeah, they're a really good offensive football team. Coach Leipold and Kotelnicki, they've got a really difficult scheme. But what triggers it is when they got good football players. You'd hope to see when the starter Daniels went down that the backup wouldn't be as good. I don't notice a real difference other than he might even be faster than Daniels. They've got 2 really good quarterbacks that are really effective in the scheme. They do a fantastic job of creating eye candy. They're going to run the football. And what they're going to do, when you stop the play right before the snap, you're going to see consistent themes. But prior to the snap, you're going to get shifts, trades, motions, unbalanced, tackle over, all different things to make your defense communicate and try to get your cleats not ground into the grass, getting ready to go forward. And if you're soft and thinking and your eyes are in the wrong spot, you're not going to play defense the way that we want to play defense. And so it's going to be a challenge for us this week to get our guys to understand, number one, what they're trying to do, and then get lined up, get our cleats in the grass, and get vertical so that we can stop the run to start with. And then on the back end in particular, have our eyes in the right place so that they don't, on play action, get behind you.
And you just mentioned how
past the two quarterbacks that they have are Beans and Daniels. Seems like almost every week now you guys are talking about the extra run game that a quarterback has. Does it make it easier game planning knowing that you're going to get guys that have that running capability week in, week out? And is that just where college football is now?
Well, I don't know that it makes it any easier. I think the more difficult offenses to defend against are the ones that have a mobile quarterback. You know, you set defenses up from, back at start of football, back when I started playing and coaching. That's a little old joke. You'd always hand the ball off, and so you'd talk about 8-man boxes, and you'd have everybody have a gap. The issue when the quarterback becomes a runner is you don't have that luxury to have someone in the post. Now you've got to play either quarters or you got to play zero, and you got to have somebody accounting for that quarterback. And so when you get a bunch of one-on-one situations and you can spread people out, one guy misses and you see all the explosive plays that they make. So that it makes it difficult. The fact that we've played against a couple of different styles of it, maybe some of our philosophy gets taught over and over, but ultimately it comes down to really good football players getting in one-on-one situations, and we've got to do a great job of, number one, making our tackles and winning our one-on-ones, and then the other thing is straining to secure your gap, secure your responsibility, and then get to where the ball is. But because they run some triple option in here, you've got to be really not just gap sound, but assignment sound. And so if I'm responsible for dive, but I think the quarterback's going to pull it, and we need an extra guy because Bean's really fast, you can't do that. You got to play your responsibility whether or not he hands it, and that's what makes this thing difficult to defend.
Coach, we asked Coach McGuire this after the game in terms of the fourth quarter and kind of the opposing teams having a little bit more plays and the defense having to be out there so much, and you've alluded to it already. Do you kind of feel like your guys are wearing down, and how do you kind of combat that? I know you talked about the depth, but I guess in terms of just trying to get the guys to either get off the field, or do you kind of feel like there's that instance of, as you mentioned before, just them wearing down because of the amount of plays they've had to be on the field for?
Yeah, I think what you got to do is earlier in the game, and we've talked about this, we've got to do a better job of rotating our guys earlier, and not be afraid when it gets in the second half and it's a tight game. We've got to get our twos, because our twos are in a lot of cases going to be better than our ones if our ones are tired. And so we've got to do a better job of managing that as coaches, and just demanding that our twos play to the standard that our ones play to. And so there's no rhyme or reason, there's no magic deal to it. We've got to have fresh guys to play, and when you go out there in quick series, it's harder, and so we got to get more guys involved in the play.
Coach, how important is Tony Bradford? I know he left that game late, but just going into this weekend with a guy that rushed for over 200 yards last week.
Well, Tony's been one of our best football players, at least defensive football players, the entire year. He's a guy that has played a lot of football. He's got toughness, does a really nice job in our multiple fronts. He and Jalen, I think, have just been the bell cows for our front. And so if you potentially lose him, obviously it's a drop-off, but it's an opportunity for the other guys. I thought Vidal did some really good things on Saturday. That was encouraging to see him step up. Phillip at times has done a really good job. He's got to get more consistent, and he'll get some more practice opportunities this week. And then, Miles has got to continue to develop. So we've got guys to do it, and when someone goes down, it's just an opportunity. It's what's next. Time for you to step up. And our guys just have to have that next man up mentality.
You talked about the quarterback run, but can you specifically speak to Neal and his ability to run the football as well?
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that they do a really nice job of getting him in downhill running plays. He's got really good vision and really good quickness where he can jump cut, make guys miss in the hole, and then he's got some explosive, speed to get away from people and take the top off. They also do a nice job in the passing game, getting him the ball in different situations where he's got one-on-one with space. So it's the Big 12. Everybody's got good players, particularly at the running back. The last, a few weeks now, it seems like we're playing against, some top backs that, all have potential to be Sunday guys. This league is really, really competitive, and we've got to play our best to hope to slow these guys down. Not many people have. I mean, they're averaging 37 points a game, I think, something like that, and really, really balanced, a couple hundred yards rushing a game and a couple hundred or more passing. So those type of teams, I think, really stress defenses where you can't say, hey, we're just going to take away, they run the ball, we're going to take away the run and make them throw. These guys can beat you both ways.
Coach, the defense has not been known as a strength for the Red Raiders, but this year it's been significantly improved. What do you think has been the biggest difference this year, and what do you see as the future for the Red Raiders and the defense they're in?
Well, we never talk about what happened before we got here. Our staff gave a charge to our defense, and I thought we had enough returning starters and guys that had played football that had bought into our system that we could play really good defense here. And at times we've not been consistent enough. But I think the biggest thing is that they're all committed on playing team defense and playing for each other. They've bought into the what's next mentality. I think we've got smart football players that are tough. I think our guys like playing in our system. And so when you get a bunch of guys who are committed to playing for each other and playing hard and fast, it gives you a chance. We just got to do a better job of being more consistent. Those last couple series on Saturday, it was probably the most disappointing for me because I thought in the second half in particular, we were getting them into second and longs and making it third and long and making it hard on them. And then the last three series, so the one before the kneel down, those two series, we just didn't have enough to get going to get them into second and long. And when we did, we gave up the long third down.
There seems to be in some of the situations where they don't seem to be getting lined up right perfectly as you'd like it. Is it just a matter of getting the play in or getting the assignments done, or is it just something that it's just something?
Typically it's tempo. They'll get lined up quickly, and usually if they sub out, we're subbing, we match it, we got plenty of time. But when they sub, we've got a system of going to quick calls. We got to get lined up and match their sense of urgency in getting lined up. It's something we work on every week, and we've got to continue to get better at that.
Anything else for Coach DeRuiter? All right, thank you. Who wants to kick off this one? Sean? Sean and Jarrett.
Coach, there's been moving away from the screen game in the last couple of games. Can you talk about why that was so important to do in your mind? Was it positioning? Was it personnel? Why was the lack of screen game in the sheet?
Like true screens or like boundary screens? Which one are you? Oh, the boundary screens. They played a little bit more man coverage, and so some of your perimeter screens aren't going to be there when you play more man. Those are more zone type plays. We did have the one true running back screen early on in the game that we were one-on-one with the safety, and that's kind of where you want to be. But some of that perimeter stuff gets taken away by man coverage just because they're 3 over 3. And, when you play the perimeter game on the perimeter, you want to have numbers over there, and that's really kind of why you go to that. And they did a good job of taking that away from us.
What do you think is the strength right now with the play calling, and what's things that you feel like just isn't there and need to be improving on?
Yeah, I think you look across the board, we can get better in a lot of areas. I can get better in a lot of areas. We had some success going fast at times, and, we missed some stuff when we were going fast at times that you look back and you could, if you went through a progression or hit the right hole and some stuff like that, that we would have had some big plays that we just didn't do. But, I think, as the season's gone on, I think we've gotten stronger running the football, which is a positive. Which is really, really good too, especially when we've kind of been in this quarterback situation that we have been unable to stay really healthy all year. So to be able to take some of that off those quarterbacks and try to run the football has been good.
The speed option featured so heavily against TCU.
Yeah, it gave us a schematic advantage. I mean, I think, you'll look at the first 2 times we ran it, we averaged 12 yards a carry on 2 plays. And again, you go back and you look at, we ran it 3 more times in the game, and I think we got 5 yards, 2 yards, and 2 yards, and it's just, we played with 10 on a few of those snaps where when you go back and you look, if all 11 guys do their jobs, we're going to average somewhere between 8 to 10 yards a carry running that play. We just felt like it gave us a really good schematic advantage in the game. And again, early on, it was really working for us, and we just didn't block it up properly the last couple of times we ran it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was run a couple of times on 3rd and long. Was the thought to get the first down or a big play, or was it to get to a more manageable 4th down?
Yeah, I was sequencing play calls there, trying to get to what we call the magic number to go forward on 4th down. Again, when you look back at it, we felt like we felt good with the play call. We just got to execute a little bit better.
Stan, then David, then Jeff.
Even in his limited snaps, what did you see from Cameron Valdez, and could we expect to see more of him for the rest of the season?
Yeah, very, very pleased with him. It's just we've kind of been playing that waiting game with him to get him back 100% healthy. So it's really good to get him back out there. Again, he hits it really well. He's got good vision, and he's a kind of a one-stick runner. He sticks and goes. So being able to see him carry the ball, had the 2 big runs, which was really good, and hopefully we get him going a little bit earlier this week as well.
Coach mentioned he believes Tyler's mentally there. What have you seen from him physically, specifically, I guess, this past weekend?
Yeah, I mean, overall, since he's been cleared, he's slowly getting back to normal. We'd be lying if he's back to who he was to start the game against Murray State, probably. And I think he'd probably tell you the same thing. But again, as far as the mental standpoint goes, he's for sure there. The second long run that Cam had, for example, Tyler checked that play from a pass play into a run because we had a light box, and there goes Cam for 40-something yards. So the mental aspect is there, and I think the more he gets out there and he's throwing the ball, the less rust he'll have. He's continue to knock that rust off as we go. And when you look at him too, I mean, he made some big-time throws in that game as well. We didn't come up with every one of them, but he did some good stuff as well. So, again, the more throws he has, the more reps he gets throughout practice, the more he'll improve.
Seen from Kansas's defense.
Yeah, we kind of are going back to kind of something we saw a little bit earlier in the year with with Houston and Texas with the 4-man front. So we'll go back to that, as well as Oklahoma State, a little bit of the 4-man front. They do a really good job of mixing up coverages in the back end and doing some blitzes at times. So, clearly they're coached very, very well. They're riding high right now too, so we know we're going to get their best shot, especially coming into here with a couple of their old staff members on staff that chose to be here. So we'll get their best shot, and again, they got some good players, and they do a really good job.
Right now, but you got Dad a birthday present?
Yeah, we got him some stuff. My wife and boys went over to the house last night. They celebrated his birthday last night, so I was up real early this morning getting the game plan going, so I shot him a text. I haven't got to see him yet, though, but yeah.
Jeff and then Mason.
Coach, you mentioned the success you've had with running the ball. Is it odd the fact that you had more running plays with your quarterbacks than your running backs in the game on Saturday?
I guess it could be. Again, the speed option stuff. The plan on that is to not keep the ball at quarterback. Again, they got us a couple times where you ended up running some of them. And again, you had a couple scrambles by the quarterbacks that ended up being rushes by them too. But yeah, I mean, definitely you'd rather not see it that way. But again, we kind of went into that game knowing that the speed option game, for example, could be important, and kind of as we had all year, Donovan was going to come in on 3rd and short, and we're going to run Donovan, so that's kind of part of the package as well. And unfortunately for us, we got into 3rd and short and 4th and short a lot, so we're going to let him roll. And so that was a few of those carries as well. So you don't want to see it that way for sure, but as the game goes, sometimes those things happen.
And speaking of Donovan in those short yard situations, there came a point where they shifted into 8, 9-man front. Should he have checked out of that to something different as opposed to trying to force it through a brick wall, I guess is what I would describe it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one play you're talking about that we didn't get the first down on, we kind of had a run-pass option on it. And, I think when we all look back on it, we wish we'd have thrown that ball, looking back on it. So, but other than that, I mean, we were successful on all the ones that he went in, other than that one there towards the end, which ended up being a huge play for us, unfortunately. But we had the option on that one to throw that ball. And, again, I think if we went back and could do it all over again, we'd throw that one.
And during the off season and even early into the fall here, we were discussing a lot about the success you guys are going to hope to have with the tight ends. Can you explain the feast or famine that is going on at that position?
Yeah, I mean, again, when you look at it, I mean, I don't know the exact number, but I probably would say that tight ends are on the field 70+% of the time for us, and a lot of times we got 2 of them out there, and we're running routes with them. The ball is just not going that way. It's not for a lack of not wanting to throw them the ball or anything like that. The ball just hadn't gone their way. The first play of the game, we're trying to throw it to one of the tight ends possibly. We end up throwing it to X White, but the play was kind of just almost designed to go to Baylor Cup first play of the game. It just didn't go there. So again, just kind of how it's gone. Unfortunately, we've got some stuff in for those guys. They're running routes a lot of the time out there. Just the ball hadn't gone their way.
Mason, Carlos,
Yeah, kind of bouncing off those points about Donnie and him running the ball. Are there situations that you feel like you want him out there throwing the ball, or situations like that? Or is it when you have that 3-man quarterback rotation, primarily he's going to be the one in those short yardage running the ball?
No, I mean, I have full faith in Donovan in all facets of the game. Again, I felt like going into the week, Barron had played well enough. I'm not a guy that just because, clearly Barron threw 3 interceptions against Baylor, but I'm not the guy that just pulls a quarterback after struggling in one game, especially as a freshman. I just don't believe in that. I believe in Donovan wholeheartedly. I mean, again, you saw him come in and get us some first downs and then go straight to 2 deep balls against Baylor. And then again, this last week, he got a first down and we went tempo and we threw a ball across the middle that, unfortunately we got a guy knocked out for it, but was a good ball by him and a good read in a tight window. Ended up getting us another first down on that play. So I have full faith in Donovan to be able to play quarterback at the full position, not only in the short yardage run game. Again, he's going to have those packages because he's very talented in that in comparison to where I didn't want to necessarily try to run Barron downhill like that at that time, where I was more comfortable running Donovan in some of those 3rd and 4th and short scenarios. But no, Donovan's great, does a phenomenal job, and I have no hesitation with him doing everything that the other quarterbacks do.
Maybe he has a bit of an advantage coming into this week, considering the success he's had against 4-man front teams like Texas and Houston?
I wouldn't say an advantage. I mean, at the end of the day, we got to get out there and we got to battle it out. So that's going to kind of be how that goes. No advantage for either of them. They got to come out there and they got to prove it. At the end of the day, we got to find the guy that's going to come out there and rip the football. So, again, I think Tyler will get better as we go, and Donovan's been practicing well too. So we'll just kind of see, hopefully, especially with Tuesday practice and Wednesday practice, we'll get a really good look at them and kind of go from there.
How did you feel about the protection last weekend? I know you had some guys that got hurt, and now you got Monroe and Lanning coming back, but how did you feel about the 4 sacks and just being able to put them in better positions?
Yeah, I mean, you look back on 2 of them, the first 2 of the game when Barron was in the game, those are on me as a coach and at the quarterback position more than the offensive line. We tried to move the pocket a few times, and then on one of them, they disguised the defense a little bit, and quarterback got caught up in a dual side read and went to the man side, and it was zone. And so those things kind of happen at times, and so you get kind of caught there at that point. And then on the second one, we were doing a pocket movement, and we had an edge rush come literally straight in the face of Barron, and it was again, I got to do a better job of getting him to understand that we got to either get us into a different play there or get that ball out to the flat quicker, which we had our read out there. But other than that, I mean, we've gotten better again as we go. Again, where we've struggled more than anything is, quarters 1 through 3. And that's where we got to get better, quarters 1 through 3. Because you're in the 4th quarter and you're down by 2 scores. I mean, you got to go. And when you got to go at those scenarios, it's easier for the defense. They can pin their ears back and come on. So, again, that starts with me and the quarterback position and us getting us in better, get a lead going in the 4th quarter where they can't do that. That's what it really comes down to.
I know you guys always talk about the what's next, but I guess how difficult has it been for you to just kind of balance all the in and outs of guys on the offensive line and just being able to get them cohesive on a week-to-week basis?
Yeah, I mean, it's been tough, but at the end of the day, we got who we got, you know, and injuries happen in football, sometimes to some teams more than others. You know, I trust my team, I trust my staff, and we're doing, you know, everything that we can, and we got to have, again, the what's next mentality and go out there and try to put our guys in the best situations to be successful.
Hey, Ty Buchanan, I know y'all talked a lot about his athleticism and his potential long term. What did y'all see on Saturday compared to what you thought you would see from him?
I thought I saw what I was planning on seeing, you know, for a redshirt freshman, first start ever. Some really, really good, and then some not so good at times. But proud of him. You know, he came out and did a good job, you know, as far as what we kind of thought he was going to be able to do. Again, you're talking about going in and playing the summer 7 team in the country and your first career start as a 19-year-old. So he came out and did a good job ultimately. So hopefully he'll be ready to roll this weekend too with that ankle.
Since he's seen some time at both, long-term future beyond this year, do you think he's your potential left tackle or right tackle, or what are y'all kind of thinking right now?
Yeah, you know, we'll kind of see how it goes. You know, at this moment, we haven't really talked about 2023 at all yet, to be honest. We're trying to beat Kansas right now. But, you know, clearly at the end of the season, those will be some discussions that we have on, you know, how do we mold the best 5 that we got and where do we put them where they go? You know, is that Ty playing left and Monroe staying at right, or maybe is that Monroe going to right and we bump Caleb Rogers to a guard? You know, who knows what that'll mean. But we'll have those conversations, you know, after the year and heading into spring 2023 for sure.
And back on quarterback usage on Saturday, some people have asked this question, so I'll ask it. I know if players are cleared, they're cleared to do everything in your playbook. They're not. You can do this with them, but you can't do that with them. So in regard to the quarterbacks running, Tyler, who's been injured, Donovan, who's had the shoulder banged up, Barron, who has the ankle, folks have asked, why put the quarterbacks in harm's way by running the option with them?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's football. I mean, Barron scrambles out of the pocket and he gets tackled in the backfield on a scramble out. I mean, it could have happened then just like it did against Oklahoma State for him. Again, we felt like that was a good way for us to have a schematic advantage and take advantage of those guys defensively, and that's why we did it. You know, again, I think every week you've got to, with the guys we have at that quarterback position, I think you've got to utilize them to a certain extent and use those guys to help keep the defense honest.
Last question today, we'll go to Brandon, third row.
Looking back at prior to the season when you named Tyler the starting quarterback, what did he show y'all that was clear in doubt that he's your starting quarterback, obviously before the injury? And has any of that changed since that injury or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you know, physically, he was probably in the best shape of his life and was really spinning the ball well. And then again, the mental aspect of the game and his ability to see defenses and check into good runs and pass concepts and stuff like that was where I felt like he really separated himself in fall. I mean, again, I think the mental side of it hasn't changed any. The physical side, of course, is going to change a little bit when you sit out for 8 weeks. But again, I think as we see him go, he's going to get back to form. You know, that's the plan, and that's where we see him going. When you see the progression he's made over the last 3 weeks of getting back in there and throwing the football.
Does Tyler still have the option to check like the freedom like he did going into the season?
Yes, he does. Yep.
All right, that'll do it for today. Thanks,
Coach.
Thank y'all.
You don't make that.